Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be painting up two Aberrant kits for the Genestealer Cults. Now I picked these up partially assembled, partially in sprues from Troll Trader. I got these for like 25 bucks each or so. So that was a pretty good deal. And so, well, I assembled them up to the point that they would get in the way of painting. Here are all the paints I used that I show in the video, or some of them I do not show, because just for menial things, like you don't think you really care if I paint a rock a certain color if it's not really a part of the general color scheme of the troops. All models are fully assembled, and then I prime them with Rust-Oleum, which is a black, ultra matte black car primer, which works in any kind of atmosphere, temperature, or humidity. Now with Eshin Gray, Pallid Witch Flesh, and Pro Bold Titanium White, we're going to do the pre-coating. So I'm going to go for some quick pre-coating for some speed painting to lay the foundation. So with Eshin Gray, base, and then with an airbrush from up above, Pallid Witch Flesh at sort of a 45-ish degree angle to create the light values. And then with a good dry brush, I then dry brush with the white, Pro Titanium White. This is a good white color, and it picks out all the many details. Since they have a lot of edges, rounds, and stuff because they're flesh, essentially, flesh and cloth, this method of dry brushing really picks out all the details very well. Now with Administrative Gray and Lamian Medium, we're going to make a wash. So basically I'm going to add Lamian Medium into the Administrative Gray until it becomes a certain thickness or density. And then I'm going to apply this all over the flesh, and this is going to be the base color. The undercoats, the dark, the light, and the highlights are going to show through, but the overall tone and color of the flesh will change to this. We're even going to do the parts that will end up blue. So basically all his skin and flesh and chitin. Only his cloth and robes are not. Now with Daemonette Hide and Lamian Medium, we're going to create another wash, but this one's going to be very thin. There's going to be a lot less paint and more Lamian Medium, and a little bit of water to help it flow better. And essentially what I want to do is I want to apply a thin layer to add a tinge of this pinkish purple all throughout the model, including the gray skin. Now I do want it to be visible in some of the recesses, so thinner is going to be better, but you could possibly do it thicker. But I essentially had to do 2 coats of this, and it kind of flooded the recesses a little bit and changed the overall color to this pinkish purplish color. The only thing is though, this is one of the most boring ways to paint, because you basically apply the wash all over the model and then you move on to the other one, then you go back to the first one, and then you make sure it doesn't pull anywhere heavily, ruining the detail, and you basically have to manage water drying. So this took a long time because man, it was boring, but the results speak for themselves. They're okay. And now some Druchii Violet. With a little bit of water, we apply this in like the center of their abs, since it's so deep and crevice. Basically, we're painting deep shades. With the faces, the ones with tentacles, we're going to apply a few coats of this to add dark. We're going to apply it onto some parts of their faces and heads and stuff, basically where we want to color it dark. Dark shading, dark stuff. Armpits, crevices or folds in flesh from whatever thing. Yeah. Alright, with Carrienberg Crimson and a little bit of water to thin it down, because thinner is always better because you can add more layers, but you can't take away. So with this, we're going to apply this onto their hands and part of their faces to add the pinkishness. So this will create the pink hands, pink feet, and stuff. And now with Hoeth Blue and Lamian Medium, we're going to once again create another wash, and we're going to apply it on all the blue chitin armor carapace parts of their body. 1 to maybe 2 layers, depending on how thick you make it, so yeah. Now with Cantor Blue and Lamy Medium, we're once again going to create a wash, but this is going to be a bit thinner with a little bit of water to help it flow. And so what we're going to do is we're going to add shading. So basically, imagine their elbow is the lightest part and their wrist is the darker part. And so we're going to apply like a few coats. And so it's going to build colors. We're going to apply some around their wrists, and then we're going to apply a second coat when it dries, going a little bit up the forearm. And we're going to do this on their legs as well. Their ankles is going to be darker, but closer to their knees is going to be lighter. So we're going to touch the top of their leg and then drag down, and that's an easy way of like controlling the color and stuff. Or we can just build up a few layers here and there. And so this is basically going to transition the light color to a dark color in some areas. This is an artsy thing. You have to figure out where to apply it on your own, but basically we use it to make certain areas darker. And I also applied the pure Cantor Blue on their spinal column thingies. Alright, so with Mournfang Brown, Aberrants Earthshade, and XV88, we are going to paint their pants and belts. So basically, Mournfang Brown over everything. Then, with Aberrants Earthshade, watered down just a little bit, but mostly pure, we're going to apply it over everything. Make sure it doesn't pool. And once that dries, we're going to take Mournfang Brown and XV88. So, look, these are a squad. And I'm not going to put that much detail. I'm going to put more detail because it's mine, but we're not going to spend forever on small details. So basically we're going straight with Mournfang Brown and a little bit of XV8 in it, and we're going to highlight the edges, lines, and stuff like that. We're just going to do one layer of this. That's it. Now with Fire Slayer Flesh, I'm going to apply a slightly watered down bit of this onto the belts that they wear to make them stand out. And I'm going to let you know that after the fact, this does not work. After the varnishes, you can't really tell the color difference. I should have painted the belts black. They would have stood out then. Alright, with Black Templar contrast paint and a little bit of water to help it flow, I'm going to apply it onto their armor plates and the handles of their weapons. Just simple, easy, done, and it actually looks pretty good because of the pre-coating we've done. Alright, with Mephiston Red, Evil Sun Scarlet, Troll Slayer Orange, and Luganeth Orange, and Corn Red, we're going to paint their capes, flaps and stuff, in front of their pants and such. So here's the thing. This is going to be a much faster, more rougher job. I'm not going to do in-between blends. This is just straight colors, just watered down so they are more translucent and flow better. So, base layer Mephiston Red all over. Evil Sun Scarlet covering 90% of everything except the deepest, darkest recesses. Then Troll Slayer Orange, watered down a lot, applied on the highest edges and stuff, and thin lines here and there. Watering it down a lot really helps the color transition very well. And we're just doing like one, maybe two layers, it's just really rapid painting. And then with Luganeth Orange, watered down a bit, just doing a few straight lines here and there to create the areas of light. And then finally, to help bind and make all the colors look tied together, we can take Corn Red and put a bunch of water in it. Basically, I got some water in my, got some Corn Red in my water, and then apply it as a water wash all over it, and it's going to tie all the colors together and tone down the Luganeth Orange. It's not as smooth as my Acolyte icon ward that I did in my last video, but it's a faster, it's pretty good for basic line troopers. Yeah, basic, but elite troops. And then with some Aberrants Earthshade, I'm just going to apply little dots of it here and there into the holes in their cloth. Alright, with Aberrants Earthshade, Ulthuan Grey, Emperor's Children, Pro, Bold Titanium White, Golem Flesh, and a .25mm pen, can't remember what it's called, but we're going to do their faces. So basically, Aberrants Earthshade, a thin layer of it into their mouths, the surrounding jawline and eyes to create depth and shadow. Then we're going to take Ulthuan Grey, and we're going to paint their teeth, a base layer of their teeth with it. Just a very fine brush and just do little taps here and there to create their individual teeth. Then we're going to take Emperor's Children, we're going to apply a layer on their tongues, then a bit of watered down Guilliman flesh onto their tongue, and then re-highlight with Emperor's Children. You can do a second layer of Guilliman flesh. This is very fast, easy to do. And then some thin lines of Emperor's Children again, watered down of course to make it translucent, on the tip tops of their tongues and stuff, just to add some depth. And that's how I do the tongues. After that, I take the Pro Acrylic White, and then I apply another dot onto each of the teeth to make them stand out more, and then I apply it into their eyelids. And then I take the, I forgot what this is called, this pen, this 0.25mm pen, and then I basically make the eyeballs with it. And yeah, and that was it for the faces. Alright, I remembered, it was Micro Pen. Now, with Abaddon Black, Nagaroth Knight, Xerxes Purple, and I bring this color in later, Genestealer Purple, we're going to paint their nails, toenails, and one of them like has a claw. So essentially, Abaddon Black base coat, Nagaroth Knight covering pretty much everything, except like the parts where the nail meets the flesh. Then with Xerxes Purple, we're going to paint like 75% of it, the top, the front sides and stuff, only the back sides of the nails will have Nagaroth Knight. And then finally a thin line of a Genestealer Purple on the tips and stuff to create like points for light and stuff, and to bring out the color a bit more to make the edges seem better. And now with Administrative Gray, we're going to highlight everything. So because this was the base color for his pink flesh or his regular flesh, his blue flesh, chitin armor, carapace, and his pink hands and feet, this color will actually be good for being used as a highlight all over the model. So basically I water it down a bit so it's still stable but translucent, and I use it to highlight the body. So I highlight the abs easy, pick out each one of his muscles there. I highlight his knuckles and the back of his hands and stuff. I highlight his toes and his feet. I highlight his back with like the upper parts of each muscle group, like the top half or stuff. Just some feathering strokes and maybe some straight lines to add some definition in. I apply it on the sharp edges of his carapace pieces, the blue. Because I use this color as the foundation, it actually works as being able to highlight all three colors, pink, purple, and blue, and it works well. I also highlight the face heavily. I map out their faces are skeletal in nature, the front, so you can see like the bases of the human skull there, and I just highlight that in straight lines, and it really brings out their faces. And you can use this also to fix any mistakes you did on their eyes. And this was a very long process to do 10 times over. Alright, with Abaddon Black and Vallejo Pigments Natural Umber, we're going to do some of the finishing touches. So with Abaddon Black, this is going to be the base layer for all the metal. Basically, their entire hammers are covered in black, except for the stuff I use black Templar contrast with. I also apply black for their collars, and some of them have anklets, and some of them have some chains and stuff. And so this is the base layer for that. Then with Vallejo Pigments, I apply this onto their feet, their ankles, and some of their robes, those that reach low onto the bottom. I have to apply this a few coats, and I use a piece of paper because it's easy to scoop up the excess and pour it back into the bottle. And this had mixed results. It just did a color change on some areas, so wasn't that effective. And then with AK Interactive Ultramatte Varnish and with an airbrush, I apply it all over and seal the models in. Alright, with Iron Warriors, Nuln Oil, Duraluminum from Vallejo Metal, Rhizo Rust, and Fire Slayer flesh. We're gonna do the metals and the hammers. Alright, so basically all the things we painted black, cover it with Iron Warriors. And that's going to be our base color, and I completely forgot to get footage for it, but Nuln Oil, I applied it all over the metal pieces. Oh, the Iron Warriors also went on the tips of the hammers and the part of the picks that were, well, picks. Then with Duraluminum, on the pickaxes and stuff, I applied them on all the edges, on the hammer parts, the edges of each square of the hammer. I also use this as a highlight on all the small edges and stuff. You can also do a little bit of overbrushing here and there. Essentially, because these pieces are so small in metal, that high contrast makes them stick out. If you try to do blends on something that small, no one's going to be able to notice it, but you'll be able to notice like strong black lines next to bright silver lines. So, and then once that's done, with Riser Rust, we're going to like scrub this on lightly on some areas, harder in some other. It's just an artistic thing, just pick out places. And then with Fire Slayer flesh, water down quite a bit. I'm going to apply this randomly on other places of the hammerheads and stuff to show some reddening or removal of rust or blood. I found this out when my dad took my sledgehammer without permission and hit a bunch of rocks and dirt with it and got this reddish crud all over it. And so I'm mimicking that here. And yeah, that was an immaculate, perfectly immaculate sledgehammer until it was horribly misused. Yeah. And yeah, and that is it for the hammers. And done. I ain't showing the bases. I'm not confident with it yet, and it's too ad hoc. So basically, I glued them all together. This video is going to come out a day late because when I finally got to the gluing and stuff, I found out that I was completely out of glue to apply them onto the bases. So that sucks. But they were applied to the bases, and bases were made first, and then they were applied on, and so I had to rework the bases to fit them. I just made random cool bases, but they didn't exactly adhere too well to the model, so I had to adjust them and remake them a little bit. And yeah, it turned out well. Now these aren't character models, so they're not given extreme detail or stuff, but the washes went a long way. There's some details I skipped because I was like, I'm just done. Like their purple, the things in their arms that are purple, some of them are not painted pink because I just couldn't care, and they're out of the way, no one's going to see them. But with the dry brushing, the heavy washes and stuff like that, the heavy use of washes to create a foundation and then highlighting that further, really made a lot of parts of the models stand out better. And for elite troops, these are pretty good, and their musculature and details and stuff look really well and look really good. Their faces are heavily detailed. You can see all their faces, eyes and stuff. This was a great deal, found it on Troll Trader, recommend you get it. I'm not sponsored by them, they couldn't afford me anyway. But, yeah. And, yeah, you might go there, find some good deals, buy some things in bulk for cheap. These were cheap. I mean, apparently it's like $60 for 5 of these Abominants, and I got 2 kits for like less than 50 or so. So, I mean, come on. That's a pretty decent deal. And yeah, alright, so sorry this one took too late. I just really didn't want to paint it. I have limited time now to paint, and this one, like, I looked at him and was like, I don't want to do this. And eventually I just decided, alright, I'll just do it. But it's for my own army. I'll keep them. They look pretty good. They're above average, above tabletop-ish. And yeah, and alright, like the video if you like the video, share if you want to share, comment if you want to comment, and more to come of not Genestealers next. And